At 12:54 a.m., Raymond Bernard should have already been dead. That's not a metaphor. That's physics. The smoke inside Grenfell Tower was thick enough to suffocate a grown man in less than 3 minutes. And yet, Raymond Bernard, 64 years old, was still breathing, alone on the 22nd floor of a burning high-rise in North Kensington, London, on June 14, 2017. The fire had started hours earlier, a refrigerator, a spark, a mistake no one would fully understand until it was far too late. Raymond was not a hero, not a firefighter, not trained for disasters. He was a retired man who liked routine, silence, and his small apartment above the city. That night he woke up coughing, his throat already burning. The hallway outside his door was no longer a hallway. It was a tunnel of black smoke, alive, moving, swallowing everything. Phones rang, people screamed. Then silence. The official advice echoed in his mind, stay put. But instinct whispered something else. Raymond wrapped a wet towel around his face, opened the door, and immediately fell to his knees. The heat slammed into him. The smoke erased the ceiling, the walls, even the floor. He could not see his own hands. This was the moment survivors later described as the point of no return. Raymond tried to crawl back inside, but the smoke followed him in. His lungs seized. Every breath felt borrowed, stolen from time he didn't have. He thought of his mother, of strangers he had passed in the stairwell for years and never spoken to, of all the moments he had rushed through life without noticing. And then something strange happened. In the middle of chaos, sirens outside, fire roaring above and below, Raymond felt a calm that did not belong there. His breathing slowed. His panic softened, not gone, but quieted. And in that stillness, through the smoke, he became aware of something impossible. The air around him was changing. Not everywhere, just enough. As if someone or something had opened a path he could not yet see. But stepping forward meant choosing between certainty of death or a chance that made no sense at all. And Raymond had seconds to decide.
Raymond Bernard forced himself to stand. Every instinct screamed at him to stay low, to retreat, to disappear back into his apartment. But the strange calm hadn't left. It lingered, fragile, thin, yet steady enough to guide his shaking legs toward the stairwell. When he reached the door, it was already hot to the touch. He hesitated. On the other side was the core of Grenfell Tower, the place everyone was running through, not into. Smoke leaked from the frame like a living thing. Raymond pressed the wet towel tighter against his face and pushed. The stairwell was chaos. People were shouting from above. Others were coughing below. Some were crying for names that would never answer. Emergency lights flickered, turning faces into ghosts that appeared and vanished in seconds. Raymond took 3 steps down. Then the smoke dropped like a curtain. It wasn't gradual, it was instant. 1 second he could see shadows, the next, nothing. His foot missed a step, and he fell hard, twisting his ankle. Pain shot up his leg. He tried to stand, but his body refused. His lungs burned now. The towel was useless. Every breath tasted like metal and fire. This was it. Raymond slumped against the wall, certain that the choice he'd made had been the wrong one. Around him voices faded, some rushing past, others stopping, then never moving again. He pressed his forehead to the concrete and whispered, not a prayer, not a plea, just words meant for no one in particular. I don't want to die alone. That was when he heard it. Not shouting, not screaming, a voice, calm and close, cutting through the panic as if the smoke didn't exist. "Stay where you are." Raymond froze. The voice didn't echo. It wasn't distorted by the stairwell. It sounded present, certain, almost familiar, though he couldn't place why. He looked around blindly. "Who's there?" he rasped. No answer. Only the same strange clarity in his chest, the same impossible stillness. The smoke around him shifted, thinning just enough for him to see the railing beside his hand. Then the voice returned, softer this time. "Turn back. There's another way." Another way? Grenfell Tower was a vertical trap. Fire above, fire below. There was no other way. And yet, as Raymond turned his head, he noticed something he hadn't before. A door, unmarked, half hidden by smoke. He was certain, absolutely certain, that door had not been visible moments earlier. But opening it meant leaving the only escape route he knew and trusting something he could not explain. Seconds ticked by. Raymond took one breath, then reached for the handle. The door opened with a soft click. No heat rushed out, no smoke poured in. That alone made no sense. Raymond Bernard dragged himself over the threshold and pulled the door closed behind him. The sound of its sealing felt unreal, like the final page of a book snapping shut. For the first time since waking up, he could breathe without coughing. The apartment was dark but intact. No flames, no alarms, no screaming. Just silence and the faint smell of something clean, almost metallic like rain hitting stone. Raymond lay on the floor, chest rising and falling in shallow, grateful gasps. His ankle throbbed, but the pain grounded him. He was alive, somehow. He waited for the calm to fade. It didn't. Minutes passed, maybe longer. Time had lost its edges. Finally, he pushed himself up and took in the room. It was small, modest, furnished but not personal. No photos, no clutter, no signs of panic. The windows were closed. The air was clear. Too clear. Raymond shuffled toward the kitchen sink and turned the tap. Water flowed instantly, cold and steady. He laughed once, short, disbelieving, then stopped, because laughter felt wrong. This place felt borrowed. He moved to the living room window and carefully pulled the curtain aside. Outside, Grenfell Tower was an inferno. Flames wrapped the building like a living skin. Black smoke poured upward, swallowing the night sky. He could see people at windows above him, waving cloths, lights flashing desperately. From where he stood, that should have been him. Raymond stepped back, heart pounding. His reflection stared at him in the glass, eyes wide, face gray with ash, the towel still clenched in his hand like a relic. "How?" he whispered. No answer came. Instead, there was a presence, not visible, not audible, yet undeniable, as if the room itself was listening, watching, waiting. Raymond sank onto the couch and did something he hadn't done in years. He thought about others. About the man downstairs who always held the door, the woman who smiled in the lift but never spoke, the families, the children, the strangers trapped above the fire line. The calm shifted then, not leaving, but deepening, heavy with something that felt like responsibility. And in that quiet wait, Raymond understood one thing with terrifying clarity. This apartment wasn't just shelter, it was temporary, and soon someone was going to knock. The knock came softly, so softly that at first Raymond Bernard thought he had imagined it. Outside, Grenfell Tower roared, glass shattering, meadows screaming, sirens cutting through the night. But inside the apartment, the sound was gentle, human, careful. Raymond stood, his injured ankle protesting with every movement. He approached the door slowly, half expecting it to vanish the way it had appeared. Another knock. This time he answered.
When the door opened, 2 firefighters stared back at him, their faces streaked with soot, eyes wide with disbelief. "Sir, where did you come from?" one of them asked. Raymond couldn't answer. He simply pointed behind him. The firefighters stepped inside and froze. "This flat was marked as empty," the other whispered. "We checked this floor twice." Raymond's heart hammered. The room felt different now, smaller, heavier, like air being let out of a sealed space. The calm that had carried him was thinning, retreating quietly. As the firefighters helped him into a smoke hood and secured his arm, Raymond glanced back one last time. The apartment looked ordinary now, too ordinary. No strange stillness, no borrowed quiet, just a room with peeling paint and a couch pushed against the wall. As they led him into the stairwell, one of the firefighters muttered, "You're lucky. This place shouldn't have been breathable." Raymond didn't correct him. Down the stairs, through smoke and chaos, they moved with urgency, but the path felt clearer than before. The smoke thinned just enough at each landing, as if remembering him. Outside, the night air hit his lungs like a shock. Raymond collapsed on the pavement, coughing, crying, alive. It was 4:17 a.m. More than 70 people would not leave Grenfell Tower that night. Wrapped in a blanket, ankle bandaged, Raymond watched the building burn and felt something crack open inside him. Survival wasn't relief, it was weight. In the ambulance, a paramedic asked, "Did anyone stay with you up there?" Raymond paused. He saw the door. He felt the calm. He heard the voice. "I wasn't alone," he said carefully. "Not when it mattered." The paramedic nodded, unsure what that meant. Raymond looked back at the tower one last time and knew, without knowing how, that his life no longer belonged only to him. Something had spared him, and now something would be asked in return.
Raymond Bernard was discharged from the hospital 3 days later. Physically, the doctors said he was fortunate. A sprained ankle, mild smoke inhalation. Nothing that explained why a 64-year-old man trapped above the fire line of Grenfell Tower on June 14, 2017, was still alive. But Raymond knew better. He returned to North Kensington weeks later, not to his apartment, which no longer existed, but to the street below the tower. He stood among flowers, handwritten notes, photographs of faces he would never meet, and he cried for people whose names he would never know. Before the fire, Raymond lived quietly. He avoided conversations. He believed kindness was private, something you felt, not something you acted on. That belief died in the smoke. In the months that followed, Raymond changed in small, stubborn ways. He volunteered at local shelters. He checked on elderly neighbors. He learned names. He listened, really listened to grief without trying to fix it. When asked why, he never told the full story. He didn't talk about the voice, or the door that appeared, or the apartment that felt borrowed from another moment. He spoke instead about responsibility. "Being spared doesn't make you special," he once said at a community gathering. "It makes you accountable." On the anniversary of the fire, Raymond lights a candle in his window, wherever he's living now, not for himself, but for those who didn't make it out. And sometimes, late at night, when the city quiets and the air feels unusually still, he remembers that calm, not as comfort, as a reminder, that in the worst moment of his life, when escape was impossible and death felt certain, something opened that shouldn't have, not to save him alone, but to send him back different, more awake, more merciful, more human. Because surviving Grenfell Tower wasn't the miracle. Living afterward was.